Hey guys, and welcome to a quick devlog video for the Animal Behavior Kit. I am super excited to share what I have with you guys today. I've actually been working on this just for a couple of nights, and it all started with a request from one user on Discord asking if it was possible to use the population control system and have the animals that spawned create groups or be in groups, right? And that actually isn't possible right now because right now, the current version that you guys have, right, you have to manually assign a group manager to your individual group. So you can't really do that at runtime without doing some custom work. So I thought about it, and my initial reaction was, well, I'm already working on the population control. I'm adding a bunch of new options. And as you can see here, I've been testing having two separate systems. Think about it as using a massive world and having the completely different zones. And that work is already done. But population control is already complicated, especially with all the new features that I've added. So I didn't really want to add any kind of grouping behavior to that because it was going to be way more complicated. So I eventually settled into creating a completely new system, and I'm calling it, I have it selected right here, I'm calling it an auto grouping. So this is the auto group manager basically. And it's a completely new system that assigns animals to their respective groups based on specific settings, right? And I've been hacking away at this for a few days, just trying to figure out the best way of doing this. Because first of all, I wanted it to not only work with population control, but I wanted it to work just normally, right, for your own game. Instead of having to manually select all the groups in your scene, if you have a really big level, maybe you can use this system to automatically add some randomness to the groups, right? So I wanted it to work that way and also be expandable for later use if I ever wanted to include even more features. So what I have here is a completely separate blueprint that you drop in your level, similar to the population control, and you can see some settings here. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown, and then I'm actually going to show you what it does. You have, just like population control, a frequency in seconds. So in this case, every 10 seconds, it'll check the available animals in the scene, and it'll basically assign them to groups based on a few settings, right? So the species detail is an array, as you can see here. You can add as many species as you want. This is on a species level. So in this case, the species is deer. Then you have the option of having a group size, and this is a minimum and a maximum, right? If you have the same number, well, the groups are going to be that exact size. If you have different numbers here, it'll pick a random group size. So right now for deers, the group size are going to be between 6 to 8 members. You can actually specify for leader if you want the leader to be male, female, or random. And the group composition is going to be the rest of the members of that group. And again, you have the same options. You can have the groups be male, female, or random. And then you have the group manager settings. And if you expand this, these are all of the same settings that the group manager has, right? If you remember from that tutorial series, the group manager has options to control the engaged behavior of the group. You can actually choose a new random leader. You can have a specific group tag, and for example, an option to have the members not damage each other. And finally, you have here where you want that group manager to spawn, and you can actually specify a location per species. And that's not really that important, but if for some reason you want to have them in a distinctive place in your level, you can change the vector 3 here. And then you have some debug options like show me how many groups have been created, and then how many animals are loose, the total number of groups that have been created. That's really handy if you just want to know how many groups are available right now, have created in your level. And then you're going to see a list of leaders. And again, that's really good if you're trying to debug the different groups here. So basically what this does is the component for groups, and I'm going to pick a random animal here, If you recall, comp underscore group, this is the component that registers with the group manager, now has a new setting called group mode. And the default is manual, and manual means that you will actually drag a group manager to the scene and assign it, and manually assign whichever animal you want to be a group leader. Automatic means that it'll actually look for this blueprint in the level, the auto group manager in the level, and it'll actually register with this blueprint based on the sex of the animal and based on the species of the animal. So all of the deer will register with the array here of species deer, and based on the sex, they'll either add themselves to male or female. And then if you have other species, they'll do the same, and then you'll have as many species as you need here. And then what's going to happen is every 10 seconds in this case, or every X amount of seconds, the blueprint is going to go through this list, and it's going to try to construct a group from a random size with this random composition and this random leader based on the pool of animals that are available here. Once the group is formed, it'll remove the references from these arrays, and then it'll go over and over and over again. And it'll attempt to create the groups that you want, but if you cannot, then obviously the groups will be smaller, for example. Or you may have animals that are still left without a group. So for example, the group size, the minimum group size is 6. So if you have 3 animals remaining in one of these 2 arrays, those 3 animals are going to remain without a group because the minimum group size is 6. So you can't create a group that's less than the minimum that you specified here. All right, so those are kind of some details that I'm giving you, so you know what you're looking for here. So right now, let's just leave it as is. I was just testing it earlier by having random, and random means that it's going to be a lot more chaotic. You can see that I have a bunch of animals here. Most are female, but I have a few males here, a few bucks. And these guys, all of them right now, are just going to roam around in the nav mesh and are going to have ignore engage behavior. So when I press play here, they're just going to roam around the scene normally. And then after about 10 seconds, right, you're going to see this blueprint automatically start creating groups on the fly, and you're going to see this list diminish and a bunch of things pop in as we hit play. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play here, and I'm going to reselect the auto group, and you can see here that all of the animals are just roaming around. And notice that we have 4 males and 16 females. And now notice that a bunch of groups were created. If I go to the output, you can see that one group was created. Oops, towards the bottom here. One group was created of size 7, and it gives you who the leader was, a female deer. Another group was 4, and another group was 5. And notice now that we still have 4 females here, and you can actually expand it, that are not in a group, right? So these females here, I can actually select them in the level, like in this one here, doesn't have a group. But if I wanted to look at the leaders, I can actually go down here, oops, to the auto grouping, and I can go down to the leaders list, and you can see that we actually have 3 groups created, and I can go to a new leader right now, and you can see that this doe is a leader, and you can see that it has the little L here, and there's a group of other animals following her, so you can see here. So right now we have 4 groups with these 4 leaders, and you can see that these guys are kind of going around with their own groups. The wrinkle that I threw in here is that they're also mating, right? So I'm going to see if I can catch it. Let's see. One of these groups is going to start mating soon. There we go. You can see you can see that there's a bunch of new animals that are popping, and of course when they pop in, notice that the arrays here are increasing, and then more groups are being created. So this is growing organically, right? So that's the beauty of the system, is that it's constantly looking for new animals that appear, and those new animals can appear via the breeding system, like in this case, and just new groups are going to continue to be added. Right now we have 5 groups with 5 leaders, but also with the population system, when the population system spawns new animals, they're going to automatically be added to this array. And then when the new round comes up in another X amount of seconds, the blueprint will continue to create groups. As you can see here, we just created another group. Oops. And more females have been added. You can see that they're continuously added. We have 6 groups. We have still 2 males and 3 females. Now we have 5 females. So as I'm talking, more and more animals are being added, and that's because they're being born through the breeding system. So more and more groups are being created in runtime, and as you probably guessed, there are group managers that are being spawned at runtime, and those group managers are automatically assigned the animals, and they're automatically assigned a tag. So this is basically doing what you would do normally, except that it's doing it automatically, and is again creating groups. So you can see here, more and more animals are created, and you can see now we have 10 animals, 3 males and 7 females, and you see immediately that the array was again reduced because we created 2 new groups, right? 1 with 4 and 1 with 5, and you can see it here as well. 6 and 4 rather. All right, let's cancel. So that's pretty much it. It's actually pretty good. I'm I'm surprised at how effective it is. You could, for example, choose that you only want males to be the leaders, for example, and then the rest of the group to be random. And if you click on play here, let's see what happens here. You have 4 males and 16 females. So let's give it a chance, and you can see that now all 4 males have been used, because again, only the males can be leaders, but we still have 10 females left, right? The groups that were created were, unfortunately, only a group of 6 and only a group of 4. And you're going to see that nothing else will happen until new males are added to the list, because the check keeps going and saying, well, you want a male leader. There are no male leaders, so we can't create a new group. So you have about 10 females here that are basically roaming around. And if you wanted to see who the leaders are, right here, 2 groups, 2 leaders. And if I click on the little icon here, you'll see that we have this buck as the leader and a bunch of breeding going on. I don't know what other word to use, but you can see that now that more males were added, more groups have been added as well. You can see now we have four groups, and all the leaders are bucks. And again, the male list is empty, while the female list still has some stragglers here. So yeah, that is pretty much it. There's a huge conglomerate of animals here, but it's really interesting to see how flexible the system is when you select random, right? So obviously, some people on the Discord were saying, well, obviously it depends on the species. Some species may want to have a female as the leader, right? And some species may want to have the male. Or maybe you want to have it completely random, right? So you do have the flexibility of having a leader be whatever and the rest of the group be whatever, right? You could choose a female leader and male group members here, for example, as well. So gives you a lot of flexibility. Right now, I haven't done all of the testing, but it looks really promising. And I think I'm confident to say that this is also coming in 1.2 as probably the last feature I'll accept before wrapping up the feature list for 1.2, which is becoming way bigger than I originally intended. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I'm really happy with the way things turned out. I hope you you like what this is bringing to your game. And yeah, if you are making a big world and you're relying on population control and you want to have groups, this is now a way that you can do it at runtime. So very useful for really big games, or MMOs, for example. So, all right, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video.